Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Gittin Daf Zayin Amud Aleph 77A1. We're just going to start on Ein Vav Amud Bet 76B, where it's going to be towards the end of the Gemara. We are 2 lines, from the bottom. Sorry, it's the last line. Amar Abaye. Okay. Abaye comes and he says, Hakol, everybody is going to agree. Whether, right, that means basically everybody agrees. Hechal de'amar, that in a case where a person comes and he tells his wife during the nighttime, this is your get when the sun will come out from its sheath. You know what the sheath is? When you have a sword. So he comes and he says, this is your get when the sun comes out. He meant to say that when the sun comes out. That's what he meant to say. He didn't mean, it didn't mean like any other crazy thing. No. It meant the second becomes day. No. It means the second that it comes day, he's divorced. Okay? For the top. Now, what happens if the husband dies in the middle of the night? This is going to be a get. It's nothing after that. Why? Because the fact that the guy died in the middle of the night, and it was only going to be a get in the morning, so therefore it's a get lachar mita. Okay. However, though, what happens if he says on condition that the sun will come up? He's divorced now. Right? Why? Because what does that mean? Right? That means it's going to be chal mafreya from the beginning, right? From the time that he gave it over. Says Rav Huna Amar Rabbi, anybody that says al menat, it's like you just said it from now. And therefore it's going to be a good condition from now. So says the Gemara, lo nechleku, there's no machloket, ela im teseh. Only if it's going to be im teseh. What does it mean, im teseh? It means if be'emet, he comes and he says, if it's going to come out. Mor savar. One of them holds, Rabbi Yosef, which means that the time on the get is going to be mochiach. The havaleh, and it's like Ki'ilu that he said, kayomi mati, today, if he dies, right? Or keme'achshavi mati, or if he dies. The lo savar, right, to more savar, and more lo savar Rabbi Yosef. The havaleh ki mati greida, as if that he only said imati. The 2 dots of the Mishnah said, kitvu tnu get li ishti. Imagine a person comes and he says, write and give a get to his wife. If he doesn't come within 12 months. They katvu, and they wrote it within the 12 months, and they gave it after the 12 months. So there was a machloket between the Tanakama that he says eno get, and Rabbi Yosef that he says kazeh get. This is a get. Do you remember? Because according to Rabbi Yosef was that he wasn't makpid on the writing, he was only makpid on the giving. So Amaleh Ravashi says Rabbi to Ravashi, Leima kasava Rabbi Yosef. Maybe we're going to say that Rabbi Yosef holds katav get al tnai kasher. That if you're going to come and you're going to write a get on condition, it's going to be kasher. Meaning, even if the tnai is not going to be fulfilled, it's going to be kosher. Why? So says the Gemara, no, that's not the explanation. That's not shitat Rabbi Yosef. Really, I'm going to tell you that it's pasul. But here it's different. That he could have said, Im lo bati, if he didn't come, kitvu tznu. He didn't say, if I don't come, then write and give it. He said, kitvu utznu, write it and give it if I didn't come. Meaning, what was the order of his words? Was the order of his words, if I don't come, that means I didn't come for the 12 months, now kitvu utznu. Or was it kitvu tznu, write it and give it if I don't come? What was the order? So therefore, the fact that he said kitvu tznu im lo bati achi kamar, this is what we're going to say. Kitvu me'achshav. You could write it even from now. Right? You could write it even from now. You could write whenever you want. You guys have extra time, do it now. Tomorrow, whenever you want, you could do it. Utznu im lo bati. But give it if I don't come within the 12 months. That's the explanation. Meaning it depends on the order of the words, right? Exactly. It depends on the words. But Rabbanan, but according to the rabbis, lo shna hachi v'lo shna hachi, there's no difference. Meaning, according to the rabbis, there's no difference between the order of the words. Whether he says im lo bati kitvu utnu or kitvu utnu im lo bati, ze selam shos. Ze bidiyuk oto davar. Why is it oto davar? Because according to the rabbis, if you first said this, if you first said that, according to them, they're not going to come and start doing all these things. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a braita. What happens if he says, right? Whoever he says, it's not going to be your get. This is going to be your get, sorry, if I'm not going to come after this week. Right? But really, be'emet, Shavua does not mean week. It means 7 years. Right? Shavua of Shemitah. Because sometimes, right, the Shavua could mean a week, or sometimes it could mean 7 years. Shana, or the Shana Shminit. Lachar Shana, right? Or after the year. Right? So he comes and he says, a Chodesh. We're talking about the first month. Lachar Chodesh, or Shabbat. So what's going to be lachar Shabbat mai? So what happens now if he says hareze gitech im lo avo lachar Shabbat? Right, lachar Shabbat zo. What's halacha? Is the shiur zman? What exactly is the shiur zman that we're talking about? So yati Rabbi Zera kamed Rabbi Yasi, ve'amni la Rabbi Yasi kamed Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Zera was sitting in front of Rabbi Yasi, and some people say it was Rabbi Yasi in front of Rabbi Yochanan. The Kamar and he says chad b'Shabbata. Yeah, he says chad b'Shabbata utre tlata. He says, Ayom Arishon Sheni V'Shlishi B'Shavua is still called, right? Chad B'Shabbata, Utre Utlata is still considered a week. But Shabbata, when it says after the Shabbat, is Arba V'Chamisha U'Male Shabbat, is the Yom Revi'i, Chamishi, the Erev Shabbat, Kamesh Shabbat is before the Shabbat, which means that in such a case, you remember this is the same halachot with Havdalah, or the same halachot with traveling. Right? When you want to travel before Shabbat, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday still goes on the previous week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's for the next week, which means you cannot travel 3 days within the Shabbat. So therefore you can't start going on a cruise or all these things. So that is called on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because you're already towards the Shabbat. Same with Havdalah. The person finished Shabbat, they didn't do Havdalah. They've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to do Havdalah. Why? Because the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is still part of the previous. And the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is already on towards the next part. Tanya, we learned in a braita, Rabbi Omer, Rabbi comes and he says, what happens if he says, so they're going to wait 30 yom after the regel. Nafak, the right, that means 30 days after the regel, they're going to wait. Nafak, Rabbi, the right, the Rasha Mishmed the Rabbi. So Rabbi came out and he made this Rasha in the name of Rabbi, the Kalsua, and they came and they praised it. Mishmed the Rabbi, but he said it in the name of a lot of people, the local Kalsua. Alma, so you see from here, let ilchata kavate, that the halacha is not like that. And therefore, that's why they didn't modeh to him, right, when he said it in front of Rabbi, which means that we don't know be'emet what is the shiur halacha. When a person says la'achar regel, is actually machloket rishonim. Some people say it's going to be 3 days after the regel, just like la'achar Shabbat, right? Other people want to come and they say that it's ben regel, whatever. There's big machloket in the acharonim. What exactly is the psak halacha? But basically, what happens is that again, right, we are going to have to obviously, if a person wants to learn halacha, they could take up a Shulchan Aruch and check what is halacha to do with, right, how long do they have in every single one of these cases. Hadran halach, misha chazok kodok yos. If you remember, we just finished this chapter, which is the chapter of the 7th chapter of that. So basically, he wanted to give a get, and then all of a sudden, this demon came upon him, or whatever it is. Okay, Perek Shemini. We're starting the new Perek Shemini, the 8th chapter on Ein Zayin Amud Aleph, 77a in the middle of the page. Hazorek get lishto vehi betoch betah or betoch hasera. Imagine a person comes and he throws a get to his wife, and she is found whether in her house or in her courtyard. Yeah, arezo megureshet. She is going to be divorced. Why? Because her reshut is acquiring the get, and it's ki'ilu, it came into her hand mamash. And he doesn't have to actually put it in her hand. He could put it in her house or chatzer. So but if it's his house or his chatzer, afilu hu ima b'mita, even if it's going to be that he's in the same bed with her, right? Which means that he threw it in the same bed. Ena megureshet. She is not divorced, right? Why? Because it was never in her permission. It was never in her possession. Letoch cheka. or letoch kalata, but if it's going to be in her bosom or in her basket, in her sal, right, that she uses, so then she is going to be divorced. So let's see exactly what is the Gemara referring to. Menana mile, says the Gemara, how do we know these words that you have to actually give the get to her hands? How do you know? The Tanu Rabbanam, as we learned in a Braita, right? It says, "Vekatav lah sefer keritut." You have to write for her a sefer keritut. Venatan biyada. You have to place it in her hands. From the word biyada, en leyela biyada. That's only in her hand. Gaga hatzera karpifa minayin. How do you know you could place it on a roof, in her courtyard, or in her karpifa, which is basically says it's like a big space, right? Which is mukaf mechitzot, which is they've got like walls around it, which is outside of the city. I don't know how you want to. It's like a storage. You could say it's a storage. Yeah. I just translate. Yeah. So you come. Ma? Lo, זה בדיוק מה שאמרת. Talmud Omar comes to teach you Vinatan. What is Vinatan? Mikol makom. Mikol makom means in any place. What does that mean in any place? Even if it's not mamash in her hands. Meaning, if it would only been written biyada, so then you're right. So chazak baruch, it could only be in your hands. But it says Vinatan. Vinatan is bechol makom, in any place. And that's where we learn it. So it says the Gemara Tanya Miyachi, we learned it also in a Braita. Kabe ganav. Yeah, there's a ganav. Now, what happens by the ganav? It says, if it's found in his hand, that which he stole, so therefore, he has to pay double back. That's only in his hands. How do you know that even if you find it, whether it's going to be in his gag, chatzer, or karpaf, also the same halacha that he has to pay that back double? Remember that when a person steals, if he on his own comes and returns it, he doesn't have to pay back kefel. He doesn't have to pay back double. But if he gets caught, he has to pay back double. How do we know that he pays back double, even if it's not in his hand, but it's found in his possession? What does that mean? In any place. In any place, you're going to come and you're going to have to pay it back. Right? Fine. So says the Gemara, utzricha. And we need both cases. We need the case of geneva and we need the case of get. Why? And get, if it was only that we learned it about the get, mishum de bal kulcha migarsha. Remember, a get could be done against her will. Meaning, kiddushin, you have to have her da. You cannot marry a woman against her will. If you come and you say, and she says, no, doesn't work. She has to be maskima. She has to agree for the marriage. Divorce, she doesn't have to agree. Other than the Cherem Rabbeinu Gershom that we did learn, that there she does have to agree. But besides Cherem Rabbeinu Gershom, halacha, you divorce her against her will. Right? There's no problem. So he says, aval ganav, but a ganav, telete bal kulche. There's no such thing as bal kulcha. What does that mean? He's not going to, there's no such thing as bal kulcha that he stole. Elmaleh, I would say that it doesn't exist. It has to be dafka in his hands. And now if you're going to tell me now, ganav, mishum de kanser achmana. By a ganav, there's a knas. What's a knas? You have to pay back double. Aval get, there's no knas. Who are you giving a knas? The woman? What does she do wrong? Yeah? Sometimes a man that's a crazy one. You understand? Not a woman. So therefore, right, what do you want? Elmaleh, I would say no. So tzricha. That's why you need both cases. So you need the case of the ganav, and you need the case of the, how do you call this? Of the get. You need both cases in order to teach you that it's lav dafka in the hand, anytime that it's going to be in the vicinity. Okay? Chatzera, how is it that her chatzer is going to acquire? Yeah, so it says, Shekanta Isha, Kanabala. One second. Her chatzer, there's a general rule. Whatever a woman acquires, her husband acquires. So if he took it and he threw it into her chatzer, it's his. So how does she acquire it? Why in the world does she acquire it? Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, Bekotevla, he wrote to her before the divorce, Din udvarim enli b'nichsaich. I have nothing to do with your property. So the fact that he was mochel and he forgives on the nichsei ishto, they're 100% hers. If it's 100% hers, when he throws it into her property, it's hers.
It was her before.
Yeah, it was always her property. It was her property. V'chi katav la mai havi. So it's like, 1 second. Even if right now he came and he wrote this, what does it help? Tanya, we learned in the Braita, ha'omer lechavero, somebody that comes and he says, dinu dvarim eli al sadezo, ve'eni esek ba, v'yadim esu lekemel, no klum. Imagine I right now come and I write down whether it's bichtav or bal peh, and I say dinu dvarim eli al sadezo. I have nothing to do with this field, or eni esek ba. I don't have nothing to do with it, right? Or yadim, my hand is removed from it. Lo maklum. Your ownership is not removed because it's yours. When you want to remove ownership from something, you have to give it in a lashon of matana, not a lashon of histalkut. Histalkut means I'm removing myself from something. That's not enough. You have to be giving it over as a present. So the fact that if this is my field and I right now tell her, "Enli dinu dvarim," what does that mean? It's still mine. I didn't give it over as a present. So what does that mean? So Amri dever Rabbi Yanai. So they said in the Academy of Yanai, "Bekotevla ve'oda arusa." No, he wrote this to her when she was still in arusa, before she got married, before the chuppah, right? And therefore, since he's only going to be zochenet after the marriage, after the full marriage, after nisuin, so therefore he says that's why he doesn't have to give it over as a present. It helps siluk, because before I got it, I already removed myself from it. Meaning, if it became mine, for me to get out of it, I have to give it over as a present. But if it never came to my hands, I could already renounce it before it comes to my hands. And that doesn't work. I don't have to give it over as a present. You can't give it over as a present. It's not yours yet. But you could remove yourself from it. Rav Kahana, like Rav Kahana. The Amar Rav Kahana says Rav Kahana, Nachla ba'alo la'adam mimakom acher. When you have a person that has an achala, an inheritance, coming from another place, Adam matne aleh shelo yirashena. You can make a condition not to receive it, not to inherit it. So there's a name. You did it to your arusa before it was coming to your hands. So there's no problem. Why is there no problem? Well, you didn't receive it yet. You're allowed to do it. Uchderava like Rava. Ta'amar Rava says Rava. Haomer. Somebody that says Ein Zayin Mubet 77b. EFC b'takana chachamim. Right? If somebody says I don't want the takana of the chachamim, meaning chachamim came and they made a takana to help me out. I don't want the takana. Meaning I don't want to be helped out. Kegon zo, for example, this shomin lo. We're going to listen to him. Mike going, what do you mean like this? What was the takana chachamim that we're talking about? Ravuna Marav, like Ravuna says in Imarav, Marav, Yechola Isha Shetoma lebala eni nizon ve'eni osa. Do you know a woman could come and say to her husband, you know what? Don't give me mizonot, but I'm not going to work for you. What does that mean? She could work on her own, and the money that she works on her own goes to her, but he doesn't have to support her. Why? Eni nizonet ve'eni osa. The entire concept of parnasa was because she's going to work for the husband. But if she says, you know what, I prefer it, she makes much more money. Says any nizoni v'eni osa. We listen to her because it was only takana chachamim. She could come and say, "I don't want the takana chachamim. The takana chachamim was only in order to help me. I don't need it because in this case, it's not going to be good for me." Rava says, "Okay, fine. Let's go back. Right when it said v'natam yada, atu yada milokanya lelebav. Forget about now. Her hand itself, everything is kanuif to the husband. So what do I care about now? We're talking about now the chatzer, even her hand." Ella, but rather there's another reason. You know what the other reason is? Kitav yada ba'im ke'echad. Her get and her hand come exactly the same moment. Meaning when he's coming and he's giving the get to the wife, the exact same moment that the get is getting into her hand comes into her possession and the get comes into her possession. And therefore she's divorced. Kitav yada ba'im ke'echad. They come at the same time. And therefore, hachanami kitava chatzera ba'im ke'echad. Her get and her chatzer come at the same time. Meaning, we don't have to come and start saying she was an arusa and he started writing the siluk. And no. Gitav yada ba'im ke'echad, chatzera ve'gita ba'im ke'echad. The exact same thing. Okay? Elmaleh Ravina Ravashi says Ravina to Ravashi. Yeah? Rava yad diisha. He says, was there a question for Rava on the hand of a woman? Nehi de kanile lemaase yadea yada gufa kanile. her hands are required to the husband for her work. Do you think her actual hand is required to the husband? Imagine a person comes and he tells his wife, you know what? I'm going to chop off your hand. She's going to say, what? She says, yeah, it's mine. What's she going to tell him? Go fly a kite. Yeah, go fly a kite. Yeah, what does that mean? The hand is not yours. The hand is acquired for a certain concept. But the hand itself does not belong to you. Exactly. That means the actions, but not the actual hand. You can't come and say, you know what, 1 second, scratch it. It's not your hand. It's not yours. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Yadad Gufami Kanile. So Elmaleh, he says, Rava Yada Eved Kakashin. No, Rava had a question from the hand of an Eved. Why, Be'emet? Because when you're going to give a shtar shechrur to an Eved Kenani, Leman Damar, according to the Mandamar Bishtar al Yedei Atzmo, that he could require himself through a document through himself. Yad Eved Yad Rabodam. 1 second. The hand of the hand of the slave is like the hand of the master. Ela Barado Tov Yadoba in Kechad. It comes at the same moment. You're right. It comes at the same moment. Meaning her hand for sure was never acquired to you. That for sure. There's no. But maybe you had a question. Maybe about the Eved. Maybe the Eved Be'emet, his hand is Be'emet acquired to you. So he comes and he says, but it comes at the same moment. And the fact that it comes in the same moment, that's why Be'emet is going to become liberated, because the exact same moment that comes as get comes as liberation. So to the same thing with a get, it's going to come at the same moment. Okay, a story to do with what we just mentioned. How was Shchim Mera? It was a Shchim Mera. Remember, Shchim Mera is the person that's on his deathbed. The Katav Lagita Ledvidu that he writes a get to his wife. Behadi Pani Demale Shabbat on Erev Shabbat. Samuch leknisat Shabbat. V'lo yispik lemetvala. And they didn't have enough time to give it to her. Lemachar takef la'alma. The next day, he's going to start to, he's already on his deathbed, but now that's it. He's already on his way out. So Atul the Rabba, they came in front of Rabba. Amalu, he told them, Zilu amrile, go tell him to the husband, Likne lehala lau duchta diatil begita, go acquire to her the place where the get is. She should go, open up and close the door where the get is, and then she's going to acquire the place. The Tzram, as we learned in the Mishnah, Na'al Kadar or paratz kolshu, harezo chazaka. How do you make a chazaka on a place? If you lock the door, if you make a breach, or if you closed off a breach, right? That's gadar. You made a gader, a wall, or paratz. You made a breach. In all these three cases, where you lock the door, things like that, you came and you made an acquisition, right? Harezo chazaka. It's a chazaka, and therefore, once right now she acquired, it's a kinyan agav. You know what Kinyan Agav is? We do it, by the way, Kinyan Agav, for selling chametz on Pesach. What's Kinyan Agav? The get, let's say, is in this room. Right? He has to give her this room. So now, how does he do it? He acquires for her this room. So she comes, she walks inside on Shabbat, right? He already had in mind to acquire her that room. She walks inside, she locks the door, or let's say there was no door, she put a door. Or there was a door, there was none, and she breaks in, right? Remember, Na'al, Gadar, Veparatz, 3 different ways. Yeah? She just acquired the room. When she acquires the room, Derech Agav, by the way, she acquires the get, which is inside the room. That's called Kinyan Agav. Huh?
Vilon,
what's Vilon?
Vilon.
No, curtain no. You have to be Paratz, Gadar, Na'al. No, it has to be Nihila. Closing the curtain is not Nihila. Yeah, on Shabbat. Yeah, so says the Gemara. 1 second. So Elmaleh, 1 second. So now we know that usually we are not allowed to make a kinyan on Shabbat. Here there's a special halacha in order to do it. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh Rabbi Rabba, Masechet Kanta Isha Kanta Bala. 1 second. At the end of the day, right, it's still not 100% hers. Why? Whatever she acquires belongs to the husband again. So again, it's a catch-22. He wanted to make her acquire it. Whatever she acquires, again, goes back to him. So what helps? So says Iksif, he was embarrassed. Why? Because Be'emet, he actually said something which is not 100% correct. He was like, 1 second, you know what? It's true. So Lavasov at the end, it was actually revealed that it was an arusa. What does it mean it was an arusa? It was an arusa means that she wasn't 100% married. And therefore, since she wasn't 100% married, he doesn't acquire everything that she acquires. So Amar Rava says, Imam Ruben Esua, Yomru Barusa, which means For sure, during the Rusin, Chachamim didn't give the husband such a zechut of Masha Kanta Isha Kanta Lebala. That's for sure. But if so, right, and that's going to be correct, since the husband was not acquiring it, so therefore you had Benatam Yada. So Hadar Amar Rava, then Rava retracted and he said, Loshna Arusav Loshna Nesua, Kitava Chatzera Ba'im Kechat. Doesn't matter. Even Bemet, if it was a Nesua, it still would have been good. Why? Kitava Chatzera Ba'im Kechat. When she came and she acquired the room, right? Exactly. Well, that's what he said. Right? When she came and she acquired the room, Kitava Chatzera, just like the Chatzer and the get, they both come immediately in the same second to her hands. And therefore she acquires it. Okay? So says the Gemara, Behamara Rava. This is 1 second. But Rava already said this. Rava said, he already said Ba'im Kechal. We learned this already. 2 seconds ago, we already said. Rava came and he said, Kitava Chatzera Ba'im Kechal. Answers the Gemara, Mikara ki amara Rava. At the beginning, when Rava said this, he said this on this case. Meaning, we said it as a statement. That statement came because of this case. This was the case. Rava said it. And from this case, from then on, it became like that. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara. Okay? We're in the 2 dots. V'hi betoch beta. What does that mean? If somebody throws a get to his wife, and she's inside of the house, or inside of her chatzer, and the get comes, and it falls, right? Inside the house, or inside of the chatzer, she's divorced. Amar Ula says, Vehu she has to be by the chatzer or by the house. If she's not home, she's not divorced. She has to be by the house or by the chatzer, right? That is the shita of Ula. Okay? Okay, does it have to be samuch or has to be betoch? Fine. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yoshaya argues. Rabbi Yoshaya comes and he says, Afilu im beTveria v'chatzera betzipori. She could be in Tveria and her chatzer is in Tzipori. Yeah? He says, Vehi betzipori v'chatzera beTveria, or she's in Tveria and the chatzer is in Tzipori. It doesn't matter. She's going to be in Megureshet. Why? She doesn't have to be there. So ask the Gemara, what are you talking about? It said that she's betoch betav, toch chatzera. So what do you mean she doesn't have to be there? So hachi kamar, this is what it means to say. Vehi kemi shebetoch beta. It's ki'ilu, she's inside of her house, or kemi shebetoch chatzera. Vekevan de chatzer mishtamer lemedata, he mitgareshet. Meaning, exactly, that chatzer is mishtameret for her. Meaning, it's not like it's an open place, or it's a chatzer mishtamer. When the chatzer mishtamer, so therefore I'm going to acquire it, even though, right? Mailbox. Which one?
It can be her mailbox.
Exactly, it's like her mailbox. It's something which is mishtamer for her. So therefore, since it's going to be mishtamer for her, it's going to be okay. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. So why don't we say that the machloket is going to be as follows? Lema beha kamipalge. Why don't we say that the machloket between them is as follows? The more saver chatzer mishum yadai trabai, the more savar chatzer mishum shlichut trabai. What is the din of chatzer? This is now lamdanut. I mean, we're going into the learning, the deep of learning. What is chatzer exactly? Is the chatzer an extension of my hand? Or is the chatzer a shaliach for me? That's what we're saying. So therefore, he comes and he says, if you tell me that chatzer is mishum yadai trabai, which means that it was learned from my hand. So therefore, he comes and he says, right? Just like the hand, it has to be beside you. So to the chatzer, it has to be beside you, right? But if you're going to tell me it's mishum shlichut, so therefore shlucho shel adam kimoto, the chatzer is like a shaliach of a person. You don't have to be beside there. You give it to the guy shaliach, and the guy shaliach is going to come and take it to you. So there's no problem. So maybe that's a machloket between them. Meaning the machloket, does she have to actually be beside her chatzer or not? Is a machloket, how do we learn chatzer? What is a chatzer? Is the chatzer the extension of the hand? So if it's an extension, she has to be there. Or do you say that the chatzer is an extension? It's like a shaliach. Says the Gemara, no, it's not the machlok between them. According to everybody, the chatzer is her hand. According to everybody. Yeah? According to everybody, her chatzer is like her hand. Yeah? So he says, more savar kiyada. One of them holds it's like her hand. One of them is like her hand. Her hand is beside her, no? Your hand is beside you. Yeah?
Inside.
Inside you. Yeah. So too, right? You have to be inside. So it has to be the side. Because of the idach, but the other one, he comes and he says, Ima yada bidvuka, v'chatzera bidvuka. So he says, 1 second, you're going to tell me now that it has to be dvuka, muchuberet legufa. So to the chatzer, but it's not that. You can't say that. Meaning, if you're going to tell me be'emet that the chatzer is like your hand, 1 second, but your hand is not beside. Your hand is attached, right? It's not only just inside; it's attached to you. So now what? Your chatzer has to be attached to you. How is your chatzer attached to you? It doesn't exist. So therefore, it has to be like your hand. Ki yada. What does it mean like yada? Ma yada mishtamel dada. When something comes in your hand, it's watched. You have possession over it. So too chatzera mishtamel dada. La puke chatzera mishtamel shelo dada. This comes to be exclude a chatzer which is being watched by somebody else. So therefore, what happens is, for example, let's say she has somebody that's watching over it, whatever it is. But if it's only going to be mishtamel dada, which means that it's going to be watched only for her. Yeah, he comes and he says, in such a case, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Yeah, because it's not mishtamel l'data. So the machloket is really be'emet for sure. Chatzera is like yada. Only question is, does it have to be that you have to be samuch, just like the hand is samuch, or there's no such thing as the hand samuch. Samuch, the hand is mechubar. So for some mechubar, so for what are we talking about then? It has to be mishtamel l'data. So 2 years to be mishtamelet l'data. Okay, nekuda. Next story. There was a person that came and he threw a get to his wife. She's in the chatzer. Azal gita nafal bepisla. And the get came and fell on a piece of wood in the chatzer. Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, Chazina, we're going to see, Ihavya arba amot, right? Al arba amot. We're going to see if this piece of wood has 4 by 4 amot. 1.92 square meters, right? Okay, that's it's around 2 meters square, right? That's the 4 amot. So therefore, it's its own reshut, and therefore, right? Since it's its own reshut, it's not batil to the chatzer, and therefore the get fell in another place.
Not delivered.
It's not delivered because it fell somewhere else. It wasn't delivered, right? The lav, and if it doesn't have dalad amot, chadar reshutahi. It's all considered one reshut. And since it's one reshut, she's divorced. Says the Gemara, my skin, and what are we dealing with? If it's her chatzer, so what do we care if it's 4 by 4 amot? I don't understand. The entire chatzer is hers. So what do I care whether it fell on a piece of wood in her chatzer or in her chatzer? Same thing. Ela barada chatzer didei. It's his chatzer. So kilo arba amot mahavi. So says the Gemara. So if it's his chatzer and it's not going to be 4 amot, so then what do I care? How is he going to become divorced? It's his chatzer. It's not hers. So lotzricha. What are we dealing with? The oshla makom. The husband lent her the place in order to receive the get. A person will only come and will lend out 1 place. He will not lend out 2 places. So right now I'm going to lend you out my courtyard. So I lend you out the courtyard, but I'm not going to lend you out my courtyard and my car, which is in the courtyard. So if I landed on the car is a different reshut. So therefore he lent out the field to his wife. And when he comes and he's going to lend out the field to his wife, the wife is going to acquire it, but that's only if it fell in the field. If it fell on a piece of wood, and the piece of wood is dalad, which means it's its own reshut. So if it's going to be its own reshut, so then what happens? So therefore he didn't lend it out to her. So therefore she's not going to be divorced. Velo amran, and not only that, ella delo gavoha sarah. It's not 10 tefachim above the ground. How much is 10 tefachim? 80 centimeters. Chazak baruch. Because every tefach is 8 centimeters. Aval gavoha sarah. But if it's going to be 10 tefachim, even if it's not going to be 4 by 4, it's still going to be another reshut. Yeah? Velo amran, and also what are we dealing with? Ela delet leshem levai. It does not have another name. Right? That means it doesn't have like for example, luach ha'etz, or like like the I don't know how you want to call it, the tree. How do you call the tree on the house? The tree house or whatever it is, things like that. But he says if it has a shem levai, even though it's not 10 tvachim, and even though it does not have arba al arba, it's still going to be the same halacha. The what? That it's going to be a different reshut in its